You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
This is Rod Mahood, your in-game voice of the Niagara IceDogs, and you're listening to the Dog Pound Podcast on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your podcast source for all game analysis, team interviews, and up-to-date news regarding the Niagara IceDogs.
Perlini! Overtime! IceDogs win! They score! Verhaeghe was also jamming away. It's a power play goal for the IceDogs. And they score! Hosang, first goal as an IceDog. Strome stops Shipley. Ritchie scores! Gets it to Akil Thomas. Thomas has the angle coming in. He scores!
Welcome into another Niagara IceDogs game recap right here on the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara IceDogs. Proudly brought to you by Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family in all four of their great Niagara region locations. Brandon Caputo and Cam Halbert are with you to break down another wild game here at the Meridian Centre for the Niagara IceDogs. Come away with a 4-3 overtime victory over the Kingston Frontenacs and their second overtime win of the week. Thank you to everybody that's tuned in on YouTube Live to listen to this right after the postgame here from the Meridian Centre. Please give us a like, subscribe, and smash that bell to be notified when we record for all of our post-game recap shows. And thank you to everybody that's tuned in the next day on your favorite on-demand audio platform. Make sure to give us a follow at Dog Pound Podcast on X as well to stay up to date with all of our IceDogs coverage. Cam, this was a Sunday afternoon game. We talked about it being a very, how would you put it, low-volume type of game.
It was very uneventful.
Very low event game is what I'm trying to say here, with the way that Troy Mann and the Kingston Frontenacs play a very pro style with their defensive structure. And halfway through the game, this looked like a snooze fest, but the IceDogs made it interesting in the final period. Were able to not only take a point from Kingston, but hand them their third straight loss in overtime. It's been a tough week for the Frontenacs, but as far as the IceDogs go, got to be pretty pleased with being able to come back from another 2-goal deficit.
No, it's just, I mean, everything that we talked about last game recap against the 67s, like, it is just so different from the years past. And tonight it wasn't Kevin who was scoring two to get him back in. It was Zada and Robrick with the game winners, and we'll get into the scoring summary a little bit later on. But the vibes just keep rolling on. Everyone's happy. It's just so much more fun. And, top to bottom, it was a very boring game. If you were here at the Meridian Centre, there was just not a lot. Sometimes that happens. Even in the greatest sport in the world, it does get a little lackluster sometimes. And, yeah, there just wasn't a lot of jam, I think. And obviously you touched on Kingston with 3 straight overtime losses. They were coming off of the end of a pretty tough 3-game road trip. In 3 and 4 nights, so obviously that probably led to some of the lack of explosiveness on their end, and the IceDogs as well. They've played 3. This is their 3rd game this weekend, and after a tough one in Kitchener. So a fantastic finish though. I mean, the last 10 minutes of an IceDog game, you just got to watch it if you're a hockey fan. My goodness.
No, it definitely was, and the IceDogs show that they have that mentality to be able to come back even when they don't have their best efforts. We'll get into the scoring summary, the game stats. We'll hear from head coach Ben Boudreau on the Wild Bills Auto Repair postgame, as well as forward Masen Wray, who got his first goal of the season. We'll hear from those two later tonight. But before we get going here, Cam, what did you think of the way the lineup was for head coach Ben Boudreau? I know it ended up getting shuffled around a little bit halfway through the game there, just trying to mix some stuff up there. But they get Owen Flores back in the net after serving his 4-game suspension, which was big. Max Crete got the promotion to the first line. But what did you think of the way it was structured tonight?
Well, I mean, we have talked about this all season, and really since he came on board board, head coach Ben Boudreau, on just how he will reward players that deserve the reward. So Max Crete jumping up to the first line. Again, they're still trying to find some fluidity with that Matthew Paris injury. So Max Crete has had a fantastic jump and start to not just the season but his OHL career. However, I think that this was probably his worst game so far. It wasn't bad at any stretch. He didn't cough the puck up, anything like that. There was a few offsides, and that might just take some time to get some chemistry. But you could definitely see that maybe he was feeling it a little bit, gripping the stick a little bit tighter tonight. Just didn't have that gel with Kevin and Lashko up on that first line. But I still think that given what he brings, he is a perfect fit there. So I do hope that we see that continue. But Galyanov, who we mentioned has had a slow start, and almost the exact same thing of what we saw from Crete tonight, where he was just gripping the stick a little too hard. We saw Galyanov, as the third period went on, he got flipped up to the first line and took Max Crete's spot. So Galyanov getting that reward on that line to end the game, or to close out the game. And it's good to see that, because he had a really, really strong game. To be honest, their best line tonight, the only line that had sustained pressure from the start of the game all the way through, was their fourth line, and that was at the start Masen Wray with Galyanov, as well as name escapes me now, Doherty.
Well, it was Hoddles, but I don't think he played.
Hoddles. He didn't play. That's it. We didn't see Hoddles out there. It was Doherty. So there was a lot of that, like, on that fourth line, and you looked up, and they were always the ones causing havoc on the forecheck. And Doherty, my goodness, we got to talk about him a little bit as well. He has just fit in so perfectly. And we saw Vermeulen score against the IceDogs in Kitchener. And we talked about in training camp that Vermeulen looked kind of like this year's Potaloo, where he just kind of had a great training camp, and maybe he's the one that takes a surprise jump. But Doherty did not get any fanfare, probably because Lashko was the one that got added in, the big name, the NHL drafted player, and he's had, second in the team in scoring. But nonetheless, Doherty has done a great job, and you're going to hear from head coach Ben Boudreau, but didn't realize he's the only right-handed forward. Like, in terms of, like, the starting lineup. And
right.
I wonder if that gets addressed. I would love to ask him in, maybe in a future interview that we talk to him about, like, how do you as a coach kind of address that? Because your power play has to be different. Like, everything, when you start cycling the puck and kind of your plays, you don't always have someone on their offhand if they rotate. So curious to see, just to kind of get his thoughts on that. But then the second line of Wasselin, Asadoran, and Robrick, man, Wasselin has had some big opportunities, and they haven't fallen his way the entire time. There's a couple in this game. He got stopped on a breakaway, as well as a 2-on-1 when they were down by 1. And you just thought that maybe this was the moment for Wasselin to really make his stamp on the team. But my goodness, on that game-tying goal, it involved all three of them. Wasselin with a great saucer, really high IQ play to Asadoran, and Asadoran's had a really underrated season as well. For Robrick to just slam home that easy one-timer there. So top to bottom, the lineup, the third line of Levin, Zada, and then Doherty, again, they just kind of rotated him in and out. Also impressive. Doherty with an unbelievable feed to Zada to kind of get the thing started. But on the back end, I want to touch on that. Van Vliet had, again, in a game where there's no jam, where there's no after the whistle stuff, that's really where you see his or when the game gets heavy, you really see his presence felt. Felt like he maybe was a step behind in this one. There's a couple of instances, but Weissig is such a good mix with him, and they both had opportunities to jump in offensively, which is always fun. And then, you had Kalem Chanowski. My opinion, his best game as an Ice Dog. I thought that it's not going to show up on the score sheet, but he had a couple of fantastic defensive breakups, as well as some great breakout passes. Very clean. I thought Chanowski was all over it tonight, and just really fun to watch him kind of fit into this team. And again, maybe more of an underrated player on this squad as we start racking up the wins, but he was fantastic tonight.
And lastly, on Owen Flores.
Oh, my goodness. Early on in the game, you could feel that, as even just as a fan, the confidence of, like, okay, it's got to be a really good shot to beat Flores. And again, that's something to take away from Robertson, but you could tell the team is just playing different with him in net. With him back now, It's going to be real tough to score a ton on the IceDogs with this defense. The defense is just so much heavier this year. It's very difficult in and around the net. You're not getting those rebound chances a lot of the times, and Flores has really become one of the better goaltenders in the league.
Yeah, he has, and you just talk about so much confidence. You see how he's kind of directing traffic out there, how much he's able to see the ice. You even mentioned it, that he was already kind of looking back door on one of the plays, and he just seems like he has a very calming approach out there, and he's able to kind of read the plays, not only for himself, but to guide his teammates as well. Yeah,
he doesn't look like he's reactionary. He wants to, I mean, you saw the fight, but I mean, he just wants to, be in the action. He wants to be the one that's winning, and that kind of mentality is awesome to have in a goaltender. And again, nothing to take away from Charlie. I think he did a great job in the 4 games that he was missed. He was thrust into kind of a tough, position. He went 2-2, kind of what he needed to. We talked about this, kind of what he needed to do for the team. And while he's fallen back into a backup role right now, he's going to get his opportunities at some point. We play a lot of 3 and 4, that kind of thing. So it's not like he's not going to play again. But it is nice to have Flores in there. He played great tonight with a big breakaway save as well. So those are all the little difference makers. And now when you have a team that scores goals, it doesn't matter if you give up 30, 40 shots, because Flores will keep you in it.
He will, and he did in this game tonight. We'll get started here with our game stats, brought to you by Gales Gas, your go-to gas station in the Niagara region. They're not just a gas station, they're a local tradition, because when it comes to fuel, you're going to Gales with multiple locations across Niagara. Shots 27 apiece, a very low shot game. As we mentioned, not a lot of events going on here, even though that Kevin He hit a post and a crossbar, but it ends up being 27 all after the one shot that Niagara got in overtime that went in. Ethan Miedema had a chance on the other end, but just wasn't able to put it through the legs and get it, missed it wide there on Flores. But this game, Cam, was very low shot the entire way. 13-6, 11-8, 9-6. You don't see many games in the OHL where neither team has more than 30 shots, or less than 30 shots.
And it was odd because, Kingston, you could see that their cycle was, when they started it and they got it going, the IceDogs were having a really hard time getting the puck back, and they did a good job blocking shots and keeping things to the outside, but they really struggled in the second period just trying to break up that cycle. And again, we talked about the penalties as well. Another 4 against, if memory serves, for the IceDogs, so not as much as the 8 they had against the 8 they had against Ottawa. So just, it's hard to get that rhythm going. And we talked about how, Kevin and Loshko are the number 1 penalty killers lines. And that's fantastic because you've got your best players who are also your best penalty killers. But when they're out killing penalties, they're not getting back on the ice for another 2 shifts, right? So it's always going to be tough to kind of deal with that. So I think that it was just 2 teams maybe that were a little tired. And the system in place for Kingston was pretty effective, but not effective enough.
Not in the end. And the IceDogs, you mentioned with the power play, 0 for 3. Kingston was 1 for 4. Kingston scored in their first power play, but then the IceDogs did a good job on the kill on the other 3. What did you see from the power play tonight? The first power play unit was Kevin He, Loshko, Levin, with Asadorian and Virgilio, that ended up getting swapped for Andrew Wysick later in the game. And then the second unit was Max Creed, Ethan Zada, Ryan Rubrick, Jack Brody, Brady Waslin. So you've got 2 16-year-olds, 2 17-year-olds, and an 18-year-old in that second unit.
Well, I think that the one thing that's becoming a little bit more evident as we've gotten, we're about 10 games into the season, when the first few games of the season kicked off and the IceDogs were number 1 in the power play in the league. I'd love to see where they're at right now. I apologize, I don't have it up in front of me. But they're struggling on zone entries, and you could see even on the bench, things are, it's frustrating when you can't get set up. Once they're in, they're dynamic, and again with Kevin's shot now this year, it's just a complete difference maker because he's just able to pick corners, and we talked about that. He already had 2 bars in this one, but I think that this will kind of shake itself out. I also do wonder if it's the lack of right-handed shots. Maybe you've got one at the point, but nonetheless, all the forwards are left-handed. I just kind of wonder if that takes away some of the or adds some predictability. To the penalty kill. But nonetheless, I thought that it was still okay. They just struggle getting into the zone sometimes, and you can tell they're frustrated. There's times where Kevin kind of wants to do it himself, and oftentimes will work, but I think that they really don't have the dump and chase and get in after it. It's not how they break the puck in, and when they get 4-man stuck at the blue line, they're having a hard time dealing with it.
Yeah, and the IceDogs, I believe, are 5th ranked in the OHL in power play. So they're just not generating the goal right now on the power play, but you can see what they're looking for on the power play, and they're not just trying to set up one person for a shot. Like, they're trying to work it around, and multiple guys are dangerous enough to be able to be on the bumper and be able to be at the point or kind of slot down for that one-timer play, which is something that we said that they lacked last year. They didn't really have somebody with a big shot that could take it from the point. It seems like there's more people willing to do that this year.
No, absolutely. I think that you see with Virgilio, for example, and Weissig is always looking to get up in the play. And then when Weissig jumps in, you see Kevin slide back to the point. And I don't hate that either, because usually after it's been cycled around, you'll get the point man will get a little bit of time to walk in, and if there's a player on the team that has a little bit of time and space added, I would love it for it to be Kevin He.
And then as far as the face-offs go, Cam, I know you tried to hone in on that a little bit more tonight. Lashko was 14 of 23, Zada 7 of 17. Asadorian, not his best night, 5 of 13. Masen Wray, 3 of 8. In total, it was 32-32. So it was an even draw in that, but we did see a couple of key draws in the defensive zone by Brady Wasslin, who ended up having to come in for Alex Asadorian getting booted out, and that was a big one. But anything else that you want to mention from the dot tonight?
No, Lashko is just becoming, again, because Kevin is getting all the fanfare just due to him scoring all the time, Lashko is really becoming just a great player to watch all the way around. Like, whether it's a setup, he's been finishing goals now after a little bit of a slow start in that to start the season. He's got, he's routinely very good on the draws as well. And like I said, he kills penalties too. So he's just been such a good ad. Has to be one of the best ads outside of the draft for the IceDogs in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, he takes up an overage and an import spot, but when you're that good of a player...
I don't know who else I would... Well, you know what I mean? Like,
when you're that good of a player, it's okay for you to take up 2 spots, right?
Currently 15th in the league in scoring, 13 points in 9 games, so your number 1 penalty killer on your number 1 power play. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know how many other players I would want for him instead.
And I didn't realize how efficient he was defensively as a centerman. Mm-hmm. Like, he mostly played some wing as well, but I didn't know that he was such a good defensive forward as well, not just offensively.
No, 100%. And again, I think that it takes the pressure off of Zada. At the beginning of the year, we had Zada, on routinely in kind of the big spots and maybe even second line center. And I think that's still well within reach, but he's also played some wing recently. But I think that with Lashko kind of solidifying things on the number 1 line, him and he are going to be linked for the entire season. Knock on wood. It's that final winger spot, but he's really made the lineup a lot more dynamic. Then it allows Asadorian and Zada to have easier matchups. I mean, we're starting to see it now. Kevin's going through a little bit of a 2-game pointless streak after scoring in every single all 7 games prior. But he's getting the hardest matchups on top of being out there every time that they have to kill a penalty, which is quite often.
Yeah, Kevin's out there in almost every situation, and some people have to pick it up when he is not able to bury, which was the 2nd straight game, but he definitely had his opportunities. Speaking of scoring, we'll get into it with our scoring summary tonight, brought to you by the Niagara Employment Help Center, helping people find work in Niagara since 1983. Check out their up-to-date job board at ehc.on.ca to find your next work opportunity. Today, IceDogs opened the scoring at the 5:01 mark of the first period. Great play by Masen Wray to steal the puck, and then he just fires it over top of Mason Vicari. We'll hear from Masen Wray in our player interview later tonight, but that's got to be good for him. There's been a lot of pressure on him to kind of get going offensively, and we had high hopes about him coming into this season as a guy that came over from the Brantford Bulldogs, a high draft pick player, and you can see with the size and the speed that he has, he could be a dynamic player in this league if he puts it all together. And for him to get 1 here, I think that's a good confidence booster. We'll see more from Masen Wray.
Absolutely. And again, we talked about how the secondary scoring needs to kind of step it up, and that's exactly what happened here. And yeah, what a steal and a fantastic shot to score. So really nice to see him get rewarded with that.
And then the Kingston Frontenacs opened it up here, getting 3 straight goals. They started off with that power play goal. I believe it was off Max Creet's offensive zone penalty, who again had some growing pains in tonight's game after being so good all season long here. But Cedric Gandon gets the goal, guy that came over from the Owen Sound attack. seems like he brings a big dynamic to their team and gets them on the board with a power play goal.
Oh, he's a really fun player to watch too. Again, Don is, and every time he had the puck, he had a couple of opportunities to ice it that he just barely missed. He's got an electric shot, and he beat Flores a couple times, but just wasn't able to hit the net later in the game to kind of put things away.
And then the Kingston Frontenacs would open their lead up to 2-1 there in the first period. Pickle would score the goal there. Euronen would get Euronen had a goal and 2 assists in this game, so he was in on all 3 Kingston goals. We get to the third period there. He gets his second goal. They get their third goal, his third point of the night for Euronen from Luke McNamara and Ben Pickle. What did you think of anything here with the way that the IceDogs kind of played this? Again, it was a very low event game, and the way Kingston was playing was just very, just very, very tough to defend.
It was always 3 men back.
Yes.
It was always 3 men back until the third period. For both teams, to be honest with you, but the Euronen goal on the breakaway, I believe Vegas Golden Knight prospect, he unbelievable finish to beat Flores 5-hole. You don't see the shot 5-hole very often on the breakaway. Usually it's more of a move to kind of open him up first. But you can't blame Flores on a breakaway goal. That's just not something that isn't on a goaltender ever. I think it was Blair Scott who had a little bit of they kind of ran into each other at the blue line. But you give an NHL prospect in this league an opportunity on a breakaway, and it's just awfully tough. You're flirting with fire there. So he was really fun to watch, and he was moving the whole night. Was Euronen.
Yeah, and he got rewarded there with the goal and 2 assists. Some of the things that I want to mention that the IceDogs didn't score on: Kevin, he had a crossbar and a 2-on-1 in the first period. And then he came down the left wing in the second period, went backhanded, hit the post, and then the puck kicked out to Mike Levin. And we originally thought Vakari stopped it, but Levin just wasn't able to hit the outside of the post, and it doesn't go in. So you're looking at a few of those opportunities when Niagara was down 2-1 or 3-1 and saying, you know what, they were one shot away from really having a shot at that there.
No, absolutely. And that was what was frustrating. It just felt like one of those games that was like, all right, well, we didn't get that one, and we're not getting any opportunities. And then into the third period, we had Wasslin with a nice breakaway. An unbelievable feed by Scott.
Blair Scott.
Yeah, Blair Scott. After that, kind of misstep on the Euronen breakaway, he had Brady was calling for it up at the offensive zone blue line, and everyone on Kingston knew. And I don't know how he fed this thing through, but it was a dart, and it sent Wasslin in after a long shift too. I thought for sure he was going to get caught. And he had an unbelievable blocker save by Vakari. This was what we were talking about, where he just seems like he's just snake bit offensively in terms of finishing. Because moments later he had another 2-on-1. This is again when they're trailing down by just 1, and it was Rubrick who couldn't finish off the pass from Wasslin. So and again they kind of gave and go. It was like they just weren't. Everyone wasn't on the same page.
Yeah, it was like neither of them wanted to shoot it, even though they're both shooters. They both wanted to be humble there and give it to their teammate, but neither of them really knew in that spot, okay, who's going to be the one to shoot it there? And I think that's going to come. We saw a little bit of guys running into each other. Just it didn't flow. It wasn't clean all night long, and I think that happens when you jumble up the lines and you've got guys playing with players that they haven't played with all year. I think that's going to happen just with that chemistry. Even Max Creed a little bit not used to Kevin He's little shiftiness there at the blue line. Went outside 3 times tonight, Max Creed. I think that's just the timing that they're going to have to work through.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. Kevin makes a lot of moves at the blue line, which is kind of a no-no. But you have to know after watching him that he has the speed to make a move at the blue line and bring it in himself to beat multiple defenders. So yeah, I think that's just some time up there. I hope we see Creed again get that opportunity, because again, I think he brings the final piece to that line. Maybe not as the season goes along, and maybe we're looking at something where we need someone a little bit more of a veteran presence, but we're getting ahead of ourselves there. But it was fun to watch. It was nice to see Crete get rewarded, because he started on the 4th line this season. And, Wasslin's the one that, the 4th overall pick and the highly touted, but Crete has really been the louder player, I think, but none to say. On the game-tying goal, Wasslin, again, made an unbelievable saucer pass to set that thing up. So I think it's funny, he has such a good shot, but every time I've noticed him where I've been like, wow, we have him. It's always off a pass. So, I think that it's going to come. It reminds me a lot of Kevin He at the start of last year, where he just wasn't. It looks like he's trying too hard.
Yeah, and has underrated playmaking ability, Brady Watson, not just a goal scorer, and he showed it on one of the goals, which we'll get into. But first, the IceDogs, again, 11:24 of the third period. Kingston was really doing a good job of just keeping it low, just trying to work out the clock, trying to work the IceDogs out there, and they were behind their own net, and Sean Doherty had the puck kind of with a defender there, had a lot of board play there, was being tied up behind the net, and somehow with like one hand, he's able to force feed it out front to Ethan Zada, who buried his second of the season, and that's good to see, not only from Zada for his confidence in getting on the board again, but what a play by Sean Doherty behind the net.
No, 100%. Like we were both kind of stunned at the whole play developing, simply because I don't know how he was able to fight off two Kingston Frontenacs and then somehow with one hand on a stick get it out behind the net out in front to Zada. So just a great job by him. And again, that's something that we're going to need to see, is we are going to need to see Zada kind of come ahead offensively. It's something we talked about at the beginning of the year. You know, if there was a player on the team to go from out of nowhere to, 50-point score, Zada kind of fit that bill. Right now he's got 4 points in 9 games, so obviously not on pace there, but he is playing lower. He is playing a little bit lower in the lineup again today. He started on that third line, and that's just kind of a testament to how tough it is to get, up higher in the lineup right now, because, the top 6 is really performing. I mean, we don't talk about Asadorian enough, but he's racked up a lot of points too, and he's always got that engine going. So, but nonetheless, and that was a goal scorer's goal what Zada did. That was top corner, just a nice snipe off of a fantastic individual effort by Doherty.
And that got the IceDogs some life there, down by only 1 goal at that point. And at the 17:05 mark, they had the TV timeout. Ben Boudreau kind of got their systems going there. And what they wanted to do in the last 5 minutes, Ryan Rubrick takes actually, it was all started at the blue line. So what happened is they're in the neutral zone. Alex Asadorian finds Brady Watson, who almost went offside with the play, but then he was able to just get it inside the zone, fed it back to Asadorian, who went in on a 2-on-1 and was able to find Ryan Rubrick for the goal. Again, as you mentioned, Alex Asadorian playing with so much confidence right now with his playmaking ability. Ryan Rubrick getting his 6th goal of the season, and just goes to show that even if he doesn't have the greatest game out there, number 25, give him one chance and he can turn it like that.
Well, he's just got such a fun shot, and we saw it in overtime, but just an electric offensive player. And again, we're gonna have nights where we're getting national coverage because of next year, I think. And we talk about Ryan a ton after last season, and he breaks all the rookie records for the IceDogs, and right now he's on pace. Currently, after the 2 goals tonight, Ryan's got 11 points in 9 games, so he's on pace for 70 goals. Point per game is kind of where we want as the minimum for him, right? Where we just kind of expect, but
70 goals or 70 points?
70 points. I say 70 goals. Imagine he's Gretzky out there. It was nice to see that it's not just Kevin in the big moments, And what was impressive was after that TV timeout, I said to you, they're going to load the top line. I thought for sure that we would see Kevin, Loshko, and Robrick, because we didn't see it at all throughout the game. They were messing around. They had started with Crete, and then Galyanov went up to the top line. And I was like, okay, we're going to see them come over, because it was after a timeout and after an icing, too, I believe. And it wasn't. It was Wasslin, Asadorian, and Robrick that stayed together. And sure enough, they were rewarded with a goal, and they tie things up.
Yeah, at the 17:05 mark, the IceDogs able to come back again from a multi-goal deficit in the third period to earn themselves a point. And then in the overtime frame, give a shout-out to Buffalo Sabres 4th-rounder Ethan Meadham. He went in all alone on Owen Flores, but wasn't able to get that. Would have been a highlight of the night for sure in the OHL. And the IceDogs were able to kind of turn that around. Matt Virgilio is able to find Ryan Rubrick there, who just buried it for his second of the night. What did you think of the whole 3-on-3 setup and how it played out?
Oh, I don't know if the IceDogs have... we haven't seen any. So we've seen a lot of overtime so far, and they've done well. Actually, no, this is second or third time.
The what?
Overtime.
I think it's the third.
I think it's the third as well. But anyways, the last 2, it has been off of a mistake or a bounce, and then the IceDogs have iced it, right? And we talked about how, the system in place by Kingston, the cycle game was so strong. I legitimately didn't think that they were going to have a chance in overtime. I thought it would have to go to a shootout for them to have a chance at it. And they had a set play off the start of overtime where they got Kevin to kind of be the one to be the pressure on the puck carrier. and they just sent the wingers. Medium was one of them, and it was just Lushko couldn't keep up with them. And I didn't see a lot of that set play stuff from the IceDogs in overtime. And again, I don't know how important it is, to really focus on that. I think that we've got bigger fish to fry probably. But I would love to see, some things that you can see where it's like there's an offensive zone play that they're looking for. And even the one that they scored on, that was off of a turnover. Robert keeps the puck alive and then fires it through a screen, which a great job by Zada on the screen. I believe it was him.
Yep.
And I really didn't think that shot was going to go in. I was surprised he took it, to be honest, because when you see 3-on-3 overtime, a shot from near the blue line, it's like, okay, that's puck possession gone.
Well, as you mentioned, Zada's screen in front. I don't think Vakari.
No,
as Ben Boudreau talked later, he thinks that if he would have saw it, he would have stopped it. So Zada should get credit for that.
And not to mention Rubrick to notice that.
Yep.
Like he put it right where he couldn't see it, and just a great job by them, and it just caps off a really fun night.
Yeah, actually, it's only the second IceDogs OT game this season. I feel like it's been 3.
I feel like I feel like the first 4 games of the season, they came back in a couple, and it felt like those were in regulation. It wasn't in overtime, but and it's also such a change because man, over the last 3 seasons, how many overtime games have we won, especially at home? I can't remember many. I remember there was the parade of ex-IceDogs that last season with Femus and Lavoie and LeBlanc. Everyone seemed to have a goal against the IceDogs in overtime, and it's not the same this year.
No, absolutely not. And the IceDogs have 2 OT wins at home in the last week, so something to build off of there. So the IceDogs take it 4-3 in overtime here on a Sunday afternoon versus the Kingston Frontenacs, who go down in overtime for the 3rd straight night. Tough for them going back home with some good efforts, just not a lot of points to show for it. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back. We're going to hear from IceDogs head coach Ben Boudreau, as well as forward Masen Wray after scoring his first goal of the year, and we'll get Cam's player of the game later on as well. So stay right here. Be right back on the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara IceDogs, right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Back after this.
Fuel up your day with Gale's Gas Bars. They're your go-to gas station in the Niagara region. Remember, at Gale's, they're not just a gas station, they're a local tradition. Whether you're hitting the road or staying cozy at home, choose Gale's. Gale's Gas Bars provide reliable fuel that keeps you moving. Stop in for quality you can trust and service with a smile. Don't settle for less. Head to Gale's Gas Bars today. Because when it comes to fuel, you're going to Gale's! Learn more at gales.ca.
Did you know that the global pet food stores in the Niagara region are all independently owned by members of the local community? We believe that pets are truly part of the family and are a source of joy in everyday homes around the world. Yet that living, loving experience usually doesn't happen all on its own, but takes extra effort to create and maintain. And we want you to know that the owners and staff at Global Pet Foods are always there to help you keep it going, any way we can, because we believe. Proud show sponsor of the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of the Niagara IceDogs. We hope to see you at one of the following locations across Niagara: 3643 Portage Road in Niagara Falls, 160 Highway 20 in Font Hill, as well as 400 Scott Street and 344 Glendale Avenue in St. Catharines. Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family.
Are you currently looking for work in the Niagara region? If so, you owe it to yourself to check out the services provided by the Niagara Employment Help Centre, located at 6100 Thoroldstone Road in Niagara Falls. Their many free services include a fully staffed resource area open to the public, resume and cover letter writing, local labor market information, job search strategies, assistance with clarifying employment, training and career goals, employment counseling and job search support, Better Jobs Ontario information, and registration assistance. Check out their website at ehc.on.ca or call 905-358-0021 for more information. The Niagara Employment Help Centre, helping people find work since 1983. This Employment Ontario program is funded by the Government of Ontario.
Celebrating a birthday, wedding, graduation, or just watching the big game, Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano is there to satisfy your pizza needs. Serving handmade Italian pizzas created with the freshest, top quality ingredients, loaded subs, and their famous chicken wings. Platinum Award recipients of Community Votes Niagara for Best Pizza and Wings in all of the Niagara region 3 years running. Open 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week from their brand new location at 7156 Drummond Road Road in Niagara Falls. All payment options accepted to fit your convenience. Available for call-ahead pickup or delivery. Place your order today at 905-374-4400 or check out their online menu for the best quality pizza and wing combos you'll find in Niagara at carminespizzeria.ca. You've tried the rest, why not try the best? Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, proudly serving the Niagara community since 2013.
This is Kevin He.
This is Brady Waslin.
This is Ethan Zatter.
It's Owen Flores.
This is the Dog Pound Podcast.
The official podcast of the Niagara IceDogs.
Welcome back to part 2 of today's Niagara IceDogs game recap right here on the Dog Pound Podcast and the Armchair GM Sports Network. Proudly brought to you by Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family in all 4 of their great Niagara region locations. Brandon Caputo and Cam Halbert are back with you, continuing to break down another come-from-behind victory in overtime by the Niagara IceDogs, improving to 7-2 on the 24-25 OHL season. Thank you to those today listening on your favorite on-demand audio platform the next day, and to those listening live on our YouTube channel by searching Armchair GM Sports Network. Make sure to give us a follow at Dog Pound Podcast on X to stay up to date with all of our IceDogs coverage and updates there. Cam, it's not only is it a winning day for the IceDogs, but you know what that means. Absolutely. So free dog treats at Global Pet Foods for the Monday. So if you're listening to this on Sunday, next day, Monday, go to Global Pet Foods, get a free dog treat for your furry friend. And if you're listening on Monday, get down there before they close at 6 o'clock. All 4 of their Niagara region locations, 2 in St. Catharines, 1 in Fonthill, and 1 in Niagara Falls. Cam, exciting times. And again, courtesy of the Niagara IceDogs free dog treat.
Absolutely. Love that. Like I said, my big girl Summer thoroughly enjoys that. So shout out to Global Pet Foods again for the sponsorships of the show. That being said, just a great weekend. It's I'm almost waiting for like the good times. We're going to go through the rough stretch. But the way that they've won all these games, it's not like they're getting... They're up and they're blowing them or anything like that, and it's just runaways, other than maybe the Brampton game. The come from behind wins it makes it feel like every time they're down, they still have a shot. But like I said, I don't know if it's a recipe for success to always be down by 2 in the third period. But that being said, it was another great weekend, and I think enough to be inside the top 10 of the CHL power ranking still.
8th the last 2 weeks, Cam. What are you thinking?
I mean, I don't see how they could drop down. I mean, they lose to Kitchener, obviously, but they're leading the division. So, they've had a good start to the year. I don't think that'll keep up. But nonetheless, power rankings are recency bias, so I would expect hopefully somewhere in the top 10 still.
What are you thinking for standing-wise right now? I mean, again, tough Central Division with Barrie and Brampton. I think Brampton's on a little bit of a bumpy road right now, but you expect them to really be up there when it's all said and done.
No, for sure. And I made a joke when we were waiting for our interview with head coach Ben Boudreau, and the fact that, I'm already looking like, hey, look at that, up 5-6 points on a playoff spot. We're 9 games into the season, but still, it's nice to not be down 6. We've been chasing the playoffs since the start of every season, and this is very odd, and knock on wood, there isn't some, monumental collapse or anything like that, but another tough week upcoming, honestly. We've got Oshawa coming up next on the 24th, and they've kind of had a disappointing start to this season, followed by Sarnia, who is having a really, really good start, and then we got Windsor. And I'll be honest with you, I'm annoyed with Windsor. You're supposed to be bad for a couple seasons, maybe not, number 1 in the conference after, the first overall pick last year. Funny, however, we were joking that the bottom 2 teams in the OHL last year are now leading their respective conferences. So I don't know how often that's ever happened, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, who would have thought that this game in the end of October between Windsor and Niagara would mean a lot more this year than it did the last couple of years?
No, absolutely. And the over-under on goals last year was like probably 12, right? I feel like it's not going to be this. Maybe it is. I don't know. But it's that's going to be a really, really big game. And, we've got 3 games in. Is that our first 3-3?
I believe so, yeah.
24th, 25th, 26th, Oshawa, Sarnia, and Windsor.
Yeah, because to this week was a 3-4.
My goodness, that's tough. What game do you think Charlie gets? Oshawa or Oshawa probably?
Maybe the second game there.
Maybe
Against
Sarnia?
Yeah, that would be my guess. But again, if Flores continues to play well, maybe he plays all three.
I mean, he's done that. We saw that last year when they were fighting for the playoffs or to try to keep their season alive. So,
Yep.
man, that's tough. 3-3 is tough, and then they've got Windsor during that 3-3. Like at the end of it.
At the end of it.
Is it in Windsor? It is in Windsor.
Yeah, it's
too.
a Sarnia-Windsor trip.
Tough.
Going to be tough. But we're going to hear from IceDogs head coach Ben Boudreau right now on the Wild Bills Auto Repair postgame, helping customers stay safe and confident on the road in Niagara since 2012 in honor of the late William Robert Hunter. Here's what the IceDogs head coach had to say following another come from behind victory for his team and picking up 4 out of a possible 6 points this week. Let's hear what he had to say.
Another comeback victory, maybe not a Picasso like you say, but a win is a win. And so from that point of view, how grateful are you to get this 2 points today?
Well, very grateful, but that's why there's 60 minutes on the clock. Right. You play everyone the same way, and just because we weren't winning early and didn't matter how long we were behind, we played all the way to the final buzzer, found a way to tie it up, and we've been pretty successful in overtime so far. So really, really happy for the way we just kept going and believing as a group. It was a very positive message from the staff and the group, just belief the entire way.
Sure. He did it the other night. Rubrick did it tonight. And how great is that to have everybody chipping in? Because you just can't count on 1 or 2 guys, right?
Well, no. I mean, especially when you look at our offense right now, it seems like it's the same guy scoring. I mean, Rubrick has got a ton of goals, and Kevin, is getting a lot of attention. But, somebody that's not going to get enough attention is Masen Wray for his defensive efforts. A lot of blocked shots. And he didn't play that many minutes. I probably should have rewarded him a little bit more, to be honest with you. But 71 chipping in, that's unbelievable. Right. I thought he really did good. And Ethan Zotto only had 1 goal on 8 games. He got the game puck tonight, because it was a huge momentum turn for us to get that goal. Right. And he's had a lot of opportunities, but everyone's going to look at Rubrick scoring. But Zotto should draw the attention of taking away Vicari's eyes. I mean, you can't stop what you can't see, and 12 did a great job of taking away his eyes and put the pucks on the net, and anything can happen. I think he makes that save if Zotto isn't standing out front. So I think the honorable mention and the recognition goes to Ethan Zotto tonight.
Fair enough, yeah. Bit of a sleepy game for part of it. Did you kind of feel that behind the bench where nothing seemed to be right? Quiet crowd, that kind of thing.
Yeah, Sunday, 2 o'clock, 3 games, 4 nights. You know what I mean? I mean, that can all go into it a little bit. But same thing. If I'm a family man and I'm paying tickets to bring my family, I mean, they got a show tonight. And, a lot of our home games have been pretty entertaining so far. So, I mean, the message is pretty clear and simple right now. As long as we're winning and getting on a good vibe, you better start getting some butts in the seats and watching these Niagara IceDogs play to win, because it's pretty exciting to be a part of this right now.
For sure. When things are kind of sleepy like that, I know you noticed you changed up the lines a little bit. Is that kind of just to maybe get things going, might as well try it type thing?
I like to change it up and switch it up. I think that's important. I mean, we were rolling 11 forwards, a lot tonight, and everyone was getting their opportunity. So out of those 11 forwards, we only got 1 right winger, so it seems like everybody can almost play the same position. We don't have 4 centers. I think we have 9 centers out there. So, I mean, for us, third game in 4 nights, we were just playing the guys that were fresh, and they kept rolling tonight. So they found a way to get the job done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thoughts on Flores coming back? I know you were pretty adamant that you were happy to get him back in the net after his 4-game suspension. How did you think he looked out there?
Well, he's yet to give up more than 3 goals in a game. He's 5-0. I mean that's just on stats alone. I mean that's huge. And I mean he made some really big saves. I mean that breakaway I think was really big. And so Flores was unbelievable. You can't discount him. I mean 3 goals allowed through 5 games. I mean that's just unbelievable statistics, and he's really given us a chance to win every single time he's been between the pipes.
And I know it's not the way you drew it up, but the last couple of times you've been able to get it to overtime and win, you've been down by multiple goals in the third period. What's the message when you guys get down late that you still have the ability to have those types of momentum changes that you mentioned with Zotto scoring the goal and then getting what it takes to tie the game up and then getting the win? Like what is the vibe on the bench when you guys are in those moments right now?
Well, I think it's just a positive message, to continue to believe what you're doing, because we were playing well and we had a lot of chances to score, and we just said, hey, keep knocking at the door. One of these things are going to go in for us. And so, between the staff, between the players, there was no frustration. It was just a common sense of belief that if we keep playing the way we're going to play, sooner or later it's going to crack. And, sure enough, it did for us. So I think it was just making sure we play 60 minutes all the way to the end, and then we had to play a few extra bonus minutes.
And when you're playing a team like that has a lot of structure and they like to wear you out and cycle and things like that, I know you got to win up there in Kingston against these guys, but when they get a lead, they sort of play differently. So how were you guys able to kind of change the tide with that and break through from what they were doing out there on Kingston's side?
Well, I really respect Troy Mann as a head coach. I mean, the guy's won a Calder Cup. I mean, he's been through NHL organizations, great hockey playing career, and you can see exactly how they played. I mean, he has his team playing very, very well. And so, especially when they got up in the league, we had to change a few things. We had to change some lineups. We had to change a few systems, and that's a sign of a very good team. And, it's not ideal going into the third down against these teams, but the resilience of this group is tough not to notice, and finding a way to play all the way to the end. As last year, I don't know if we would have had that belief being down so often, but for us, if we get down, we still think that there's a belief, and it was great to see some different guys actually crack in tonight's lineup, have some help for us.
And lastly, a guy that's not going to get a lot of notoriety with some of the bigger names, but Sean Doherty is a guy that came in as an underrated pickup, a fourth-line player that you've been able to move up and down the lineup. He's contributed with a few goals, and he set up that play to Zada as well. So can you speak to what Doherty's brought as a depth guy that can play in 200 foot and be reliable for you?
Well, for us, we want the winning recipe, and you can't just have the one ingredient. You can't just have a bunch of Kevin Hees on your team trying to score. I mean, you need some different ingredients to make sure this thing goes well, and that's exactly what Sean Doherty is. I mean, he's our only right shot forward in the lineup that plays regular minutes, but I mean, he can be dependable on the backside. He's dependable on the offensive side, and I think the biggest thing for us is we're finding ways, or he's finding ways to contribute one way or the other, especially with limited minutes. So as a coach, the first thing you want to do initially is find a way to reward him, and he's just been a huge factor in a lot of the wins, and I would say right now he is our unsung hero.
Thanks, Coach. Congrats on the win.
Appreciate it.
There was IceDogs head coach Ben Boudreau on the Wild Bills auto repair postgame. Came a lot of good stuff to sink your teeth into there. First, we'll talk about Sean Doherty.
No, absolutely, and I'm glad that you brought him up because, again, that play to Zada was just an individual effort that is not going to be notified other than the assist on the box score. But it's just fun to see that again him bringing up the point that he's the only right shot defenseman or right shot forward in the lineup, and now I can't stop thinking about looking at that when they're cycling the puck and like that. So he is going to be an important piece. We've seen him on the second line, we've seen him on the fourth line, I think we've seen him at center. So he's been all over the lineup, and again, very underrated because he just kind of came in when Vermeulen got moved out, and we weren't really anticipating the Vermeulen trade. And so it is what it is, and then he's quietly become. He has made Matthew Parris's absence feel less of what it is, even though not having Paris, you're clearly seeing the impact of that because of what's happening on the first line,
on the right wing
spot specifically. So not to minimize that loss, but he's making it less of a big issue than it was. So great to hear from him about that. I loved the call out to Zada that he had a great game, and he did. Again, I think we're waiting for the 50-point season out of him, and he's still he is regularly one of the hardest hitters other than Van Vliet on the team. Like he has some big hits and big moments and big spots. I remember that one against, I think it was Owen Sound, where he absolutely crushed someone and then sent Wasslin, I think, on a breakaway because of it. And, he doesn't get the love from the score sheet on that. But he is, again, I love the recognition of that screen in front. That goal doesn't happen without Zada. And, he has continued to show that he recognizes his players for their continued success or when they need to be held accountable.
And he talked about basically having 9 centers at this point, and that's when he brought up about the right wing spot has basically been centers having to move over there because they don't have a lot of natural right wingers on the team right now. You got Lashko playing center, and then you've only got really Doherty and Paris, who's on the shelf right now. So a lot of those other centers have had to kind of move to the wing, and I know it may be a little bit easier to do that, but the fact that everybody's buying in and being able to move around the lineup shows the versatility that they have on the forward group.
Well, I think they had 7 players take a face-off in this game, right? So that becomes much more important. When you take a look at things, you get kicked out of the draw to have centers on the wing to come in, and you're not just instantly losing possession of the puck off the drop of the face-off.
And lastly, you mentioned Troy Mann's system, a guy that coached the Belleville Senators in the American Hockey League. You saw what he's been able to do since coming over to the Kingston Frontenacs this last year. They're a tough team to play against. They're tough to get in behind their defense. And for the IceDogs to be able to be down 2, crack open their armor there and get another come-from-behind win like they did up in Kingston in the second game of the season. This is not an easy system with what Troy Mann does to be able to break through, and this is the IceDogs' second time doing it.
Well, what the most impressive part to me about the comeback again was that it was manufactured by the IceDogs and not waiting for a bad bounce. We even set it up here. It's like, man, we just need a bounce, for a breakaway, that kind of thing. And both of those goals were off turnovers, whether it was in the neutral zone or behind the net, or even Doherty. Again, 1-on-2 behind the net somehow forces it out to Zada. So, I think that we saw, the tired legs in the third, and the IceDogs created their opportunities with some fantastic turnovers, and they really, put this thing out of reach got back into this thing because of things that they manufactured.
And quickly, you did mention Flores, too, being back in there. Again, some quite the interesting comments over the weekend about Charlie Robertson and wanting a little bit more from him through those 4 games, but getting Owen Flores back. Hopefully that pushes Charlie to be better as well, and they have that healthy competition to want to one-up each other when Charlie does get back in there, like you mentioned, in a 3-3 situation.
Well, again, you can't argue with the stats, right? He's 5-0 now. He hasn't had a game where he's given up more than 3, and in the OHL, that's going to be a chance to win every single night. The offense hums with him, and the defense, I feel, looks more confident when he's in net. And it's not a detriment to Charlie and how he's played. I just think that you can definitely see the difference right now in the way Flores. This is different than like Flores. I think that Flores sometimes gets hot-headed in prior years, and he was always looking for an altercation or something, and he would kind of get too into it. This just looks like he is going to work, and he is really battling to make sure that he performs well and keeps his team in it, and he's done that in spades.
Yeah, he's definitely looked more composed back there and more cerebral in that sense. So we'll get to our IceDogs feature player interview tonight, brought to you by Cully's Original Sports Bar, proud supporter of Niagara IceDogs hockey. Whether you're gearing up for a game or celebrating a big win, Cully's is the place to be after every IceDogs matchup. Just a short walk from the Meridian Centre. Cully's, it happens here, and is with Masen Wray after scoring his first goal of the season. We'll hear what Masen Wray had to say. Back on the postgame with IceDogs forward Masen Wray. Masen, I know you've been really trying out there, but to finally get one on a turnover for your first of the year, just how much are you hoping that this can carry some momentum for you moving forward?
Yeah, obviously as a player, everybody hopes as they score the first to keep the momentum going, but I wouldn't have done it without my line mates there, so the only reason why I got the goal is because of them, so that's my mindset right now.
What's something you continue to work on right now as you're moving to center now? How comfortable are you with the system that Ben Boudreau and how they want you to play? Like how is your comfortability level now as you're moving forward here?
Yeah, obviously it's pretty comfortable. I'm able to play wherever he wants me to play, which is good, and system's going great right now. Team's doing well, so that's all I could ask for right now.
You're a big body, so you're using it a lot more out there than maybe you did last year. Is that something that you really worked on in the offseason, that you want to use that size to your advantage and make sure that you're using it in the offensive zone and defensive zone?
Yeah, obviously, being the big frame I am, I have to use it to my advantage. So I have to use it to my advantage. So not everyone has my height, so I really worked on it in the offseason, gained some weight, and was able to bring it to the game.
Obviously, you don't want to be down in a lot of games, but it seems like you guys have been able to come back with resiliency and win a couple of games in overtime as of late. What's the vibe and the feeling in there when you guys are down a couple of goals to know that you have the confidence and the ability to actually come back and not only gain a point but win these games, and just the whole confidence level as a whole?
Yeah, obviously, all the boys work. That's all our group right now, is we just work until we find a way, and obviously tonight we did, and a couple nights ago we did as well, but no, we have a great group of guys, and I look forward to the rest of the season for sure.
IceDogs forward Masen Wray. Masen, congrats on the win, congrats on the goal, and continued success.
Yeah, thank you so much.
There was IceDogs forward Masen Wray. More of a soft-spoken guy, but we want to talk to him after obviously scoring his first goal of the season. A lot of high hopes for Masen Wray. Again, Ben Boudreau has him playing in a bottom six role right now, but that could change if he continues to show not just flashes, but sustained consistency with the way that he can play, because we obviously know he's got a lot of speed and he's got the size to be able to be an impact player in this league.
No, absolutely. I think that he's really starting to use it as well. I think that last year we wanted to see a little bit more of that, and he addressed that. He said that he was looking to get bigger in the offseason, and just doing that interview, you can tell how big he is. You don't really, it's hard to tell, when they're down, when you're watching him from above. But again, the fourth line isn't going to get nearly as much credit, night in, night out, because we have some of the better offensive talent in the upper stages of the lineup. But man, it's nice to have reliable fourth and third line. And you look back on some of the players that filled those roles in prior years, and they wouldn't be able to crack this team.
No, they wouldn't, and he said they're playing with a lot of confidence right now, and they've got a good, healthy group in that locker room right now, and it's nice to see. Again, we talk about other players being available around the league and if the IceDogs are going to make moves and things like that, but it seems like they've got a good mix right now in that room, and sometimes, you want to bring in some talent, but you also don't want to ruin what everybody kind of adds with their own ingredients, as Ben Boudreau mentioned, to make everything go there.
No, absolutely, and I think that one of the things that we've talked about is that with the team doing so well, one of the fears is that they're going to start moving some of these guys for overagers or just players that are, that are here for the current season, right? And I really hope that they just kind of stay the course, because this group has gone through a lot after the last 2 years, and now you're starting to see it really come together. And I hope they just kind of go hands off for a little while and see where we're at come, the January deadline.
Yeah, and luckily they already have an overage problem because they have too many to begin with. So hopefully, again, that's going to be a tough decision that we continue to talk about, but it's going to come at some point here.
No idea. Every game, I simply do not know what is going to happen when Gavin's back, and I'm excited to have him back. He was such a fun player to watch, especially last year in a lost season. My goodness, there's a reason why they gave him the C, and it's, like I said, it's going to be real interesting.
So before we get out of here, we're going to put Cam on the spot once again with our stick tap of the game, brought to you by Hockey Stick Man, Pro Stock hockey sticks from major junior teams, right up to the NHL teams for half the retail price, a stress-free shopping experience. Check them out at hockeystickman.ca to join their mission in saving hockey families money. Cam, who do you got tonight?
I'm going to go with Caleb Chanowski. Again, not going to see it on the scoreboard, but he has quickly become one of the better defenders on the team, and he's not going to get a lot of love there, or maybe offensively as well. But like I mentioned, there was a lot of plays that he made in his own zone the first period that was causing a turnover, getting the puck back in his own zone, and then firing it out without messing around at all. And it was just fun to watch him become one of the better defenders on the team, and I hope to see that continue throughout the rest of the season. But great job by him tonight. He was really fun to watch.
And you talked about Ryan Rubrick getting the game-tying and winning goal. We talk about him enough, but Ben Boudreau talked about they actually gave the game puck tonight to Ethan Zada because he was able to turn that momentum with that big goal and then gets the screen on the Rubrick goal that was the game winner. So really nice to see Ethan Zada get involved offensively, because we know how talented he is as a two-way threat, but being able to provide some offense, get some confidence there.
100%, and I think that there's going to be better days ahead for Zada as well. I think that he'll end up getting his shot. Again, seeing him play on the wing a little bit, he started the game at center, but there was a moment or two where it looked like he was on the wing, and it might have just been a lengthy shift or whatnot, but I would like to see, Zada get some more love on the top six, just to see. He has a chemistry with Robrick, you see a little bit, and maybe it's just because they were drafted in the same year.
Off ice too.
It's just, exactly. When they get out there's something, and usually it's on the penalty kill, or but like there's something. I would love to see them get a shot to play together for a little while, and but you really can't mess with Asadorian, Robrick, and Wasslin. That has just been electric night in, night out. And again, they're getting probably the easier matchups because everyone's keen in on Kevin and Loshko.
Well, Cam, thanks for doing this. It's a good 3-4 for the IceDogs, coming away with 2 wins. And then they've got the Eastern Conference champion Oshawa Generals coming in next Thursday before going off to Sarnia and Windsor. So should be another fun week upcoming.
Got to take that one, I think, given the following, the 3 games in 3 nights following the Oshawa game. But they're not going to be an easy out, and they're looking to turn their season around quickly. So hope to keep the winning ways going at the Meridian Centre.
And then they play in Peterborough on the Tuesday. So they have a lot of games coming up in the next week and a half or so. So we'll have to see how they respond to this stretch. But good so far for the IceDogs, 7-2 record after a big win against the Kingston Frontenacs here on home ice in overtime, coming away with the 2 points in front of the Meridian Centre crowd. That was a total of 3,317 here in downtown St. Catharines. So for Cam Halbert, my name is Brandon Caputo. Thank you to everybody that tuned in live on our post-game show and to those listening the next day on your favorite on-demand audio platform. IceDogs 4, Kingston Frontenacs 3 in overtime. And this has been another game recap for the Niagara IceDogs right here on the Dog Pound Podcast. We'll talk to you guys next week.